Alone at the wedding, the grieving millionaire discovered an incredible secret. Today, I'm with nothing but shadows of laughter that echoed all around him. Jack Thompson, a titan in the corporate world, felt like a ghost at this extravagant celebration. As he meandered through the sparkling crowd in an opulent mansion overlooking the vast Pacific, each boisterous laugh pierced his heart, igniting memories of his younger sister, Lily. They had been inseparable, bound by laughter and shared dreams. Now, standing in a sea of faces, he felt utterly isolated, each sip of champagne a reminder that the joy he once took for granted had been snatched away. His guilt tightened around him like a vice. He should have protected her, fought harder against her illness. Instead, he had been absorbed in his cutthroat ambition, and the realization gnawed at him with a ferocity he couldn't shake. What was wealth worth when it couldn't save the ones you loved? The mansion, with its crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors, felt like a gilded prison, mocking him as he cradled his drink like a lifeline to numb the tide of grief. Seeking solace, Jack slipped into a quiet conservatory, where muted sunlight bathed lush plants in a warm glow. The silence was almost comforting until he stumbled upon a dusty, elegant box, wedged between family heirlooms. Intrigued, he opened it, and his breath hitched as he found a letter written in Lily's unmistakable hand. His heart raced as he lost himself in her words. She had been fighting even in her weakest moments, quietly amassing funds for a local charity that supported children battling illness, her passion spilling onto the page like her bright spirit. A fierce determination began to rise in him, wrestling with the dread of abandoning his corporate empire. Could he diverge from success measured by profit margins to honor the sister who had touched lives even amidst her suffering? The irony was suffocating. Would he simply be a wealthy man trying to pay off his guilt, or could he transform that guilt into something meaningful? A persistent unease settled in his stomach as he battled to find clarity amidst the turmoil. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he dove deeper into the charity's mission, he found himself met with sneers from colleagues who deemed the venture a distraction. Their skepticism threatened to drown him in doubt. His tensions escalated when the society whispered behind closed doors, branding him a rich man seeking absolution. But then he met Sophia, an indomitable force, fiercely dedicated to the charity's cause. Her passion ignited his resolve, yet he felt the weight of his family's legacy surging against this new world he was trying to navigate. Just as the exhilaration began to settle in, a text pierced through his thoughts. Jack, you need to see this. I found something related to Lily. His hands trembled, the phone vibrating relentlessly in his palm. In that moment, the choice laid before him became an unbearable weight. Would his pursuit of genuine compassion jeopardize everything he had worked for? Tension coiled in his gut as he felt the grip of the abyss closing tighter, craving clarity even while feeling utterly lost. Jack's breath hitched as he stared at the ominous text. It felt like a taut string ready to snap, the gravity of it seeping into every corner of his mind. Curiosity battled with anxiety as he contemplated his next move. The thought of leaving the wedding to follow this new lead felt reckless, yet staying seemed more suffocating than ever. He weighed his options, mind racing. Could this text potentially unveil some hidden truth about Lily that might shift his trajectory, about the charitable work she had nurtured, or perhaps something even more poignant? The choice concerned more than just her legacy, it touched the very essence of who he was versus who he wanted to become. With a decisive breath, he pulled out of the gilded cage of the mansion and ventured into the night. The sea breeze brushed against his face as he made his way to his car, each step feeling both heavy and liberating. Arriving at his office, the sterile glow of fluorescent lights seemed to clash with the emotional storm brewing within him. It was there he found Ethan, a trusted advisor and childhood friend. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Ethan remarked, eyeing Jack's weary eyes. Jack held up his phone, and the worry in Ethan's face deepened. "What is going on? Is Lily?" Jack shook his head. It's about something I found her letter. She was doing more than battling her illness, she was helping kids, raising money. I didn't know how much she cared about making a difference. Ethan shifted uneasily. All of that sounds noble, Jack, but you need to focus on the business. We've got quarterly projections coming up. Your charity work might pull you away from decision-making, and you know how the board feels about distractions. The truth of his friend's caution echoed in Jack's mind. The board already viewed him as vulnerable. Could he risk further alienation by pursuing Lily's mission? You don't understand, Jack countered sharply, the urgency of his conviction boiling beneath the surface. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about honoring her legacy, it's about changing lives even in her absence. Ethan sighed, I get that, but this world doesn't forgive weakness. People will see you as a fool chasing ghosts if you divert your focus. Those words lingered in Jack's head, poisoning the resolve that had started to blossom. He glanced at the clock, each tick reminding him of the mounting pressure to conform and neglect the calling spurred by his sister's spirit. This internal conflict tightened like a noose. Let me show you the letter, Jack said finally, a flicker of hope igniting in his heart. The truth hidden within those pages had potential to alter the narrative of his life. What if he could transform his grief into a force for good? But doubt nipped at his heels, questioning whether it was too late to redirect the course he had been set upon for so long. As Jack prepared to reveal the words that had found their way back into his life, the tension multiplied. What would it mean to follow Lily's path, and would he lose the remnants of his identity in the process? Just then, his phone vibrated again. Jack, you need to come now. It's urgent. Panic flickered in his chest. The stakes had risen, and he realized he couldn't ignore the call for change any longer. Would this urgency propel him further down the path Lily had blazed or tear away the last remnants of the man he had become? As he rose to face whatever lay ahead, Jack understood the moment of reckoning had arrived. The need to face the truth was immediate, but would he emerge stronger or more vulnerable than before? Jack stood motionless for a moment, his heart pounding in time with the heavy silence that surrounded him. He combed through the thoughts swirling in his mind, an urgent message, unresolved grief, a sister's legacy. As his consciousness threatened to fracture under the weight of it all, he felt an emerging clarity urging him to act. With a quick intake of breath, he redirected his focus back to the screen. The message from his assistant on the other side of the line demanded his presence now. But was it an obligation of obligation? The board? Or did it bear importance that was just as crucial as the breadcrumbs left by Lily? Shaking off the doubts, Jack made a decision: he would confront this urgency head-on. Let us go, Ethan, he said, framing his voice with resolve. We need to find out what's going on. They hurried out of the office, the cold night air invigorating Jack as he descended the steps. Each stride born from determination washed away the lingering shadows of uncertainty. The decision to prioritize Lily's mission and band together with Ethan, rather than letting skepticism dictate his choices, felt liberating. As they arrived at the meeting point, a dimly lit bar that bustled with activity, Jack took a moment to steady himself. The trepidation coursing through him was akin to standing at the edge of a diving board, teetering on the brink of the unknown. He wanted to dive into the depths of Lily's world and uncover its mysteries while also confronting the chaotic nature of his current life. Inside the bar, Jack searched for his assistant, Paige, who waved them over with a sense of urgency that mirrored his own. I think you should see this, she said, her tone barely concealing anxiety. She handed him a file, its contents sealed, yet the tension hinted at revelations yet to unfold. He sat down, heart racing as he paged through the documents. Each page unfolded a layer of Lily's charitable endeavors, revealing names and connections Jack had hardly considered. As he parsed through those details, praises from grateful parents filled the margins, reminding him why Lily had immersed herself in the fight against childhood illnesses. This is incredible, he finally breathed, the weight of understanding pressing down. She created entire programs and I never knew. Ethan shifted uneasily, but what does it have to do with you now? We can't lose sight of the company, he argued, his tone layered with concern. Jack slammed the file shut, a sudden crack of frustration echoing between them. "It's everything, Ethan. This isn't just charity work, this is a blueprint for a legacy I can carry forward. The business has always been about numbers, but this is about impact." Ethan leaned back, his expression a mixture of skepticism and concern, but Jack caught a hint of something else, a flicker of recognition that he hadn't seen before. Jack felt an awakening. He was no longer just reacting to external pressures, but actively shaping his own response. "Maybe I can do both," Jack continued, his voice low and resolute. "I can keep the business afloat while also honoring her mission. I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to find them." "Just be careful," Ethan warned. Jack nodded solemnly, but energy flowed through him like the first rays of dawn. Fighting back against the shadows of his doubts, Jack began mentally cataloging small steps, outreach initiatives he could launch, community meetings he could hold, all while drafting a business plan balanced with philanthropic aspirations. The urgency of the moment pressed on him like a tide, urging him to swim out into the open water. This feeling, this newfound clarity, ignited a plan that was beginning to crystallize. He would take Lily's foundation and build it with the weight of his legacy. As he gathered his thoughts and stood from the table, his phone buzzed again, this time, a call from an unknown number. Anticipation gripped him, a crescendo of possibilities unfurling like a flag in a brisk wind. Jack hesitated just a moment before answering, unsure whether this call was destiny reaching out or just another obstacle. Either way, he was ready. "Who is this?" he asked, steadying himself for whatever awaited on the other end. "Jack, we need to talk. It's about Lily's work, and there's more at stake than you think." The words lingered in the air, wrapping around him like a tether, drawing him into an unfamiliar realm where his mission could evolve into something far beyond initial expectations. Jack's pulse quickened one way or another. He was on the brink of real change. But could he balance the weight of this new call with the responsibility edging him toward a different version of himself? Jack felt the weight of the caller's words settle in, an unexpected gravity that stirred something deep within him. How could a phone call encapsulate both the urgency of his sister's legacy and the looming responsibilities of his business? "Who are you?" he pressed again, urgency creeping into his tone. He was done with vague messages and wanted clarity. The lines were blurring between his personal life and professional obligations, and he needed direction. "Someone who knows what Lily was really up to," the voice replied. "Meet me tomorrow. I'll share everything, but it won't be easy to hear." The line flickered with idle static before cutting off, leaving Jack with a mix of fear and anticipation. What could be so treacherous about his sister's work? As if an unseen hand gripped him tighter, Jack recognized how little he truly understood about Lily's endeavors, the depths of her passion, and the potential dangers entwined with it. "What's the plan?" Ethan's voice broke into his thoughts, both steady and probing. Jack drew in a breath, exhaling slowly as a strategy began to form in his mind. "I need to prepare. I can't walk blindly into this without knowing the full scope. I need you to help me gather everything we can find on her projects over the past 2 years, he said decisively. Ethan hesitated, searching Jack's eyes for clarity. "We're walking a fine line between running this company and investigating your sister's legacy. There are risks." "I get that," Jack shot back, his frustration surfacing again, "but if there's more to her work than we realize, we might be sitting on an opportunity to both honor her life and revitalize our business. I won't let fear paralyze me." With that, Jack felt a flicker of resolve sparking within. It was as if the moment marked a turning point, redirecting the trajectory of his life. But could it all be sustainable? He questioned whether he had the emotional fortitude to uncover whatever truth awaited him. The notion of betrayal loomed, mingling with gratitude for Lily's compassionate vision. They exited the bar, and the streetlights flickered like stars caught in a dense night sky. Jack scanned the street, indecisiveness nudging at him again. "Let's drop by her office tonight," he suggested. "We need to see her workspace, the last projects she was working on." Ethan nodded slowly, but he didn't seem convinced. "What if it's too late?" Maybe you should just leave it be. A surge of conviction pushed against Ethan's cautiousness, igniting a wave of adrenaline. It's never too late to honor her legacy. I have to know for myself. Later, in the quiet of Lily's office, shadows danced along the walls, carved by the moonlight pouring through the window. Jack sensed something ethereal in the air. He was tethered to a past that was heavy with meaning, while unfolding before him was a path full of unknowns. He rifled through papers strewn across her desk. Each note held her spirit, each scribble igniting his hunger for discovery. The blend of nostalgia and guilt enveloped him, a violence from the urgency to know and the realization that he had overlooked so much. He wasn't just honoring her mission, he was unearthing the layers of who they both were as siblings and individuals. Among the clutter, a folder caught his eye. It was labeled, "Confidential." Jack's heart raced as he opened it, revealing documents that hinted at partnerships and fundraising figures. Inside was correspondence with a shadowy organization suggesting interest in leveraging her programs for some untold influence. Trust mingled with unease as the implications became clear. There was more at stake, perhaps more than he had bargained for. "What have you gotten yourself into, Lily?" he whispered to the emptiness. The night air grew colder as dread unfurled within him, and he looked up, his conviction crystallizing. This wasn't just about rebuilding a legacy, it was about navigating a world more complicated than he envisioned. Questions wrestled in his mind, the stakes were rising, echoing the choices he faced. As he prepared to leave her office, Jack's phone buzzed again, a message that read, "Meet me at the Purist Cafe, 9 a.m. We must discuss Lily." The urgency crashed over him like an incoming tide, and he recognized that whatever he was about to uncover would either pull him to a greater truth or expose deeper treachery. The line between hope and despair was growing thinner by the moment, and Jack had to confront what he truly wanted: to honor his sister or protect the very system she tried to change. Tomorrow, he would dive into the unknown. But would he be prepared for the consequences that followed? Jack awoke early, the pale sunlight filtering through the blinds, casting stripes of light across his disheveled bed. Sleep had been elusive, the weight of the impending meeting loomed heavy in his mind. Today, he would step into the unknown, grappling with the complexities of his sister's life while wrestling his fears about what he might uncover. He pushed himself out of bed, urgency replacing lethargy as he scrolled through the notes he had made late last night. Each point was a morsel of information, a thread leading deeper into a potentially tangled web. What had Lily been caught up in? Who was this mysterious figure waiting for him at the Purist Cafe? He promised himself clarity to cut through the fog of confusion and grief. As he dressed, Jack's thoughts raced toward strategies for gathering intel. He couldn't merely react, he needed a plan, a structure that would allow him to navigate the looming confrontation. Walking into this meeting required not only information but the steady resolve to confront whatever truths awaited him. He drove to the cafe, the familiar streets now feeling foreign, as if the normalcy of life had somehow shifted overnight. Arriving early, he settled into a booth against the wall, allowing himself a moment to gather his thoughts. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, yet he felt disconnected from its warmth, the bitter taste of anticipation pricking at the edges of his resolve. As the clock ticked closer to 9, Jack's stomach knotted with each passing second. The muted chatter around him became a mere backdrop to the symphony of doubts echoing in his mind. What if this person was leading him astray? What if his quest to honor Lily's memory was riddled with dangers he had yet to comprehend? Moments later, a figure approached, a woman, tall and poised, her brow furrowed in determination. Jack's heart quickened as she slid into the booth opposite him, her presence commanding the space. "I'm glad you came, Jack," she said, her voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "I'm Alex. I worked closely with your sister." Jack searched her expression, looking for reassurance. "You know what Lily was involved with?" Alex nodded, her gaze unwavering. "She wanted to change the world, Jack. But you need to understand there were powerful forces at play. Some wanted her success, others wanted her silenced." Sitting up straighter, Jack breathed in deeply, preparing for honesty. "Tell me everything." With that, Alex began to weave a narrative that transcended the normal boundaries of Lily's work, a tale of innovation and ideals, entwined with secrets and manipulation. Jack absorbed every word, each detail painting a more vivid picture of his sister's world, revealing her impact and the unintended consequences that marred her mission. She was in over her head. Alex paused, searching for the right words. But she believed in the goodness of people. That's what made her vulnerable. Something broke within Jack at that moment, a blend of pride and despair. Lily had been brave enough to confront the darkness. The realization shattered his recollections of their unremarkable small talk. He had never acknowledged the depths of her ambition, nor the risks she had courageously undertaken. What did she discover? He pressed. Alex hesitated, the weight of her next words sinking in. She uncovered a plan. A project that could change lives. But it also attracted the wrong attention. There are individuals who will stop at nothing to silence dissent. As her words settled, Jack's thoughts whirled. He felt the urgency of the stakes rising. Honoring Lily was no longer a simple task of remembrance, it was an act woven through moral reckonings and harsh realities. The cafe around him began to fade, leaving only the intensity of their conversation, the risks gleaming like daggers in the dim light. Jack's resolve hardened. He couldn't retreat into ignorance. He had to see this through, not just for Lily, but for himself. What do we do next? He asked, a newfound determination surging within. Alex's eyes glinted with approval. We need to gather evidence, connect with her contacts, and expose the truth behind those who threatened her. But it won't be easy, and we'll need to tread carefully. In that moment, something shifted within Jack. He recognized not only the daunting path ahead but also the core of who he had become, a man willing to fight for his sister's legacy, to reclaim not just her work but his own identity in the process. But as new plans began to form in the back of his mind, the phone slipped from his pocket, a text notification that vibrated insistently. He glanced at the screen. You're in over your head. Back off now, or face the consequences. The warning sent ice coursing through his veins. Jack's heart raced. He was being watched, and the shadows that surrounded Lily's life were now creeping into his. What would he do next? Would he stand his ground, or would the threats compel him to retreat? The choice loomed large as an imminent confrontation flickered on the horizon, merging the battle for his sister's truth with the struggle for his own survival. Jack's grip tightened around his phone, the screen glowing ominously in the dim cafe light. Each word clawed at his consciousness, a stinging reminder of the dangers lurking just beyond his reach. The thought of retreating was not just unappealing, it felt like surrender, like abandoning Lily's memory and the courageous fight she had waged. Alex leaned in closer, her tone urgent. What's wrong? With a quick inhale, Jack forced himself to meet her gaze. It's a threat. Someone knows I'm looking for the truth. His voice trembled slightly, but there was a resolve bubbling underneath his fear. Then we don't waste time, she replied, her determination manifesting in the way she straightened up. We need a plan. You can't tackle this alone. The intensity of the moment crystallized their collective purpose. Jack considered his options. He couldn't afford to be reckless, yet ignorance would cost him dearly. What do we have on Lily's investigation? Are there contacts I can reach out to? Alex nodded, and together they mapped out a course of action. With each detail that emerged, Jack felt a tension releasing. He'd been handed a lifeline, and the weight of inaction was slowly lifting. They compiled Lily's notes and cross-referenced with Alex's information on her dealings. A network began to form in his mind, connections coalescing around his sister's memory. As they worked, a surge of unexpected confidence coursed through Jack's veins. He found himself moving with purpose, jotting down names and locations, piece by piece reconstructing the maze Lily had traversed. He surprised himself by feeling more competent and focused than he had in years. This was not just about uncovering the truth, it was proving to himself that he could rise above the turmoil that had consumed him since Lily's death. Remember, Alex cautioned, breaking his reverie, you have to tread carefully. Lily thought she could win against the odds. We need to be smarter. Jack nodded, the weight of her words sinking deep. I'll be cautious, but I won't be intimidated. The resolve in his voice was new, a pledge to embrace the elements of himself he'd stifled for too long. He recalled his childhood, a time filled with curiosity and bravery. It was that fearless spirit that had driven Lily. He felt it bubbling up within him again, like a long-dormant ember igniting into flames. Just then, a strange man swept into the cafe, his movements deliberate and weighted. Jack instinctively recoiled, a primal instinct kicking in. Could he be the one sending the texts, the shadowy presence that loomed over Lily's legacy? The man scanned the room and then locked eyes with Jack. Panic rippled through him, yet he found the courage to stay seated, unwilling to show fear. He exchanged a glance with Alex, who seemed to share his alarm. Stay alert, she whispered. He might be looking for you. Jack watched intently as the man approached them, a slow confidence in each step. The air thickened with apprehension, and Jack's heart raced not with fear, but with a burgeoning resolve. This was the confrontation he had feared, yet rather than stall him, it fueled his determination. The man leaned against the booth, a crooked smile playing at his lips. Looking for answers, are we? It's a dangerous game you're playing, Jack. Might want to choose your allies wisely. Jack's defenses flared, adrenaline pumping through him. Who are you? He shot back, the defiance surprising him. You'll soon find out. Just remember, not everything is as it seems. Stay too long in the sun, and you'll find it burns. With that, the man stepped back, melting into the crowd as abruptly as he had appeared. Jack's hands clenched on the table, blood roaring in his ears. The threat was palpable, but so too was the realization that the stakes had risen immensely. There are people who want to silence you, Alex whispered, staring at the space where the man had stood. Yes, but I won't back down, Jack asserted fiercely. In his heart, he sensed the truth. He was on the precipice of changing the narrative of his life, of stepping out of the shadows, cast by Lily's absence, and into a fight that was inherently his own. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Jack was creating a battle plan. He felt the spark of something greater than fear. As they gathered their information and started plotting their next steps, only one question reverberated in his mind. How much was he willing to risk to uncover the truth? But before he could answer that, the cafe door swung open again, and another figure stepped in, a familiar face he hadn't seen in years, one that could either fortify his cause or further complicate his pursuit. Jack's heart raced again. Would this person be a lifeline or a liability? Whatever the answer, he felt the rush of impending confrontation beckoning him forward. The game was just getting started. Jack squinted, trying to make sense of the figure that had just entered the cafe. The moment felt surreal, as if time itself was closing in on him. The familiarity of the face stirred a whirlwind of emotions: confusion, apprehension, and a glimmer of hope. There stood Rachel, an old friend from college, her brown hair cascading in waves, an uncharacteristic air of confidence radiating from her. He hadn't seen her since the night of Lily's funeral, an event where shadows had loomed larger than life. That day, Jack remembered how Rachel had offered support, her steady voice a balm against the chaos swirling in his grief-stricken mind. But now, as he observed her walk with purpose, quickening his pulse, he wondered if this reunion was simply a coincidence or a potential complication in an already volatile situation. Jack, she greeted, her expression softening as their eyes met. It's been too long. Her voice cut through the noise around them, and for the briefest moment, he almost felt safe. Yeah, it has. He hesitated, eyeing her with cautious curiosity. What are you doing here? I just got back in town, thought I would check in, she explained, her gaze darting around the cafe before settling back on him. You look different. Different. He hadn't heard that word in ages, not since the fog of despair had layered over him like a shroud. The truth was, he felt different. Driven by a new purpose, he had begun to reconstruct the pieces of his life, reshaping them in a way that honored the memory of his sister without being consumed by it. Now, he grappled silently with what might feel like the betrayal that came with moving forward. Things have been tough, he admitted, reality crashing in. Lily's investigation, it's become personal. Rachel's brows furrowed, and he could see the concern washing over her features. I heard about Lily. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't be alone in this. His instincts flared. A part of him, dominated by suspicion, questioned her motives. Who really could be trusted? But another part, a growing voice, yearned for connection and shared purpose. I'm not alone, he said with a tinge of defensiveness. I have a partner. Alex? Rachel interjected, a hint of surprise coloring her tone. You're working with her? Yes, Jack replied, his irritation simmering just below the surface. She's committed to digging deeper into what happened. But you should know that people are watching me, and they may be watching you too. Rachel appeared thoughtful, her fingertips tapping anxiously against the table. What do you mean? Who's after you? He explained the eerie encounter with the man in the cafe, demonstrating the threat that had accelerated his resolve, but also his paranoia. Each shared detail tightened the knot of fear in his stomach, coupling with the kindling of determination. Jack found himself impressed by how easily he could articulate the stakes he faced. What had once been a struggle to voice his concerns was now framed in stark clarity. If you're actively investigating, you need an ally with access to information, Rachel stated, her tone contemplative but assertive. I can help. I've been involved with a group of researchers. We've worked on a variety of sensitive cases. Desperation clawed at him. The stakes had undeniably risen. Could she truly be an asset, or would this open a door to greater risk? His mind raced as he combed through the implications, seeing both the potential and the pitfalls. He had learned to weigh risks carefully, but in this delicate dance of trust, his instincts warned him not to waver too far out of his lane. Why should I trust you? The words slipped out of his mouth, tinged with unfiltered nerve. You left town when everything started unraveling. Rachel's gaze didn't waver. Because I can help you find the truth. And because I won't let you do this alone. Jack felt the gravity of her proposition settle over him like fog. They could forge a new alliance, one not merely built on nostalgia but grounded in shared determination. The hesitation that had become a familiar companion in the past few months began to feel unwelcome. As his mind raced with possibilities, an inner voice cautioned him, would accepting Rachel's offer lead to the answers he sought? Or would it jeopardize the tenuous hold he had on the fragile path towards resolution? There's no turning back from this, he reminded himself, grappling with the gnawing anxiety of uncertainty. In that charged moment, he realized that every step forward carried weight, every potential partnership a risk. The true test was not merely gathering allies but discerning who would bolster his attempt to unveil the obscured truth of Lily's tragic end. Just as answers seemed tantalizingly within reach, a text message pinged ominously from his phone. Instinctively, Jack's pulse quickened once more as he glanced at the screen. The message read simply, "You're not safe." Not yet. He stared at the phone, doubt creeping back in as a new sense of urgency wrapped itself around him. Would he decipher the message's intent? And who else was lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike? The time had come to face choices that would either breathe life into his quest or bury it further in secrecy. Jack's heart raced as he contemplated the implications of the message. He couldn't shake the growing sense of danger, a smothering weight pressing down on him. The walls of the cafe felt suddenly confining, as though they were closing in. Rachel, the once familiar figure amidst the backdrop of his turbulent feelings, was now both a potential ally and a source of uncertainty. Jack. Rachel's voice disrupted his anxious train of thought, pulling him back from the precipice of his spiraling doubts. What is it? You look like you just saw a ghost. He hesitated, the conflicting emotions crashing within him. It's nothing, he finally managed, though he knew she could probably see right through his facade. Don't lie to me. You're clearly on edge, Rachel pressed, concern etching deep lines on her brow. If we're going to work together, you need to trust me. I can't help you if I don't know what we're really dealing with. For an instant, Jack pondered the risk of laying bare his fears. But this was more than personal, it felt critical. Reluctantly, he showed her the screen of his phone. I received this just now. Someone knows what I'm doing and they're warning me. Rachel's eyes narrowed, her expression shifting from concern to resolve. We can't let fear dictate our next move. We have to be proactive rather than reactive. Let us find out who sent that message. The realization of needing action surged within Jack. They were teetering on the edge of a mystery that begged for exploration. You're right, he said, a flicker of determination igniting within. But we need to think this through. Every step we take has to be calculated. As they brainstormed their next move, Jack found himself leaning on Rachel's confidence. They discussed potential leads, people who might have information, the relevance of old contacts from their college days. It was exhilarating to feel the warm rush of shared ambition, a stark contrast against the isolation that had consumed him for so long. What if we start with the community forums? Rachel suggested. I can tap into my network, they can provide insights that might help pinpoint the nature of the threats. Jack nodded, feeling a surprising sense of relief. Somewhere deep within him, he began to shed a layer of doubt. And I'll reach out to Alex for her resources. We can't overlook the angle of authorities either. If there's someone tailing me, if they're willing to threaten me, then there's a bigger fish we need to expose. The stakes were undeniably escalating, and with every plan cemented, Jack felt a rush of purpose overriding the fear that had plagued him. He wasn't merely navigating the darkness of his sister's untimely death. This was about taking control. Still, an undercurrent of doubt lingered within him. Would seeking collaboration lead him to clarity, or would it shatter the carefully reconstructed facade he had begun to build since Lily's loss? As they exchanged thoughts, a mix of hope and uncertainty coursing through his veins, he found that he was no longer merely honoring his sister's memory, he was fighting for the truth. Tomorrow, then, Rachel said, a firm determination solidifying her voice. We meet, and we dive into this head first. Tomorrow, Jack affirmed, but as he left the cafe, an unsettling sensation prickled at the nape of his neck. The world felt charged with intensity, and the mere act of stepping outside felt both reckless and vital. But it was then that he caught sight of a figure silhouetted against the streetlight, someone subtly, persistently following him. A shadow cast by his evolving reality. Jack's breath quickened as clarity washed over him. The investigation was no longer just about uncovering Lily's past, it was about his survival. Each day brought new beginnings, but with the promise of new alliances came the risk of new enemies. What was it Rachel hadn't told him? As he hurried away, the weight of secrecy loomed larger, intertwining their fates tighter than he could have imagined. The next steps would not only test their resolve but expose hidden truths that could either light their path or engulf them in darkness completely. Jack's footsteps quickened as he navigated the dimly lit streets. His mind raced alongside his heart, adrenaline pulsed through him with every echoing footfall against the pavement. The figure shadowy, persistent loomed larger as he twisted his head, nervously scanning the alleys and storefronts, willing himself not to show fear. Each glance over his shoulder amplified the shadow's threat, a silent reminder that he was being watched. He arrived home, his apartment awash with the familiar scents of old wood and lingering coffee. The space felt hollow, yet charged with the energy of his unsettling thoughts. He dropped his bag by the door, barely registering the cluttered landscape of his living room. He was drawn to the desk, where remnants of his late sister's possessions lay untouched. Among the papers was a journal, faded but inviting. As he flipped through its pages, tracing the words written in her delicate hand, memories flooded back, pieces of conversations they shared, her dreams, and the fragile hopes that had tethered her to life. That evening, Jack fought to focus on tangible efforts to advance their investigation. He opened his laptop and pored over reports, trying to decipher connections in the data. The more he delved, the more he felt the enormity of his endeavor. He was no longer just chasing answers to a cruel fate but inching his way toward the truth of his sister's life and possibly her death. just as weariness began to cloak him, a notification chimed. An email from Alex arrived, promising generic updates on available resources, but Jack's eyes narrowed at the mention of a new task force employing advanced surveillance tactics. An unsettling feeling sunk in. This could be a double-edged sword. Would authorities help, or only complicate matters by probing into obsessions better left unexplored? He swiftly composed a response, outlining his concerns and the urgency behind enlisting Alex's help to navigate this precarious territory. Sending it felt like placing a final piece into a puzzle whose image remained shrouded. But relief was fleeting. Doubt gnawed at him, catching at something deeper, and uncertainty about Alex's intentions mingled with a sinking dread about alerting authorities. The evening deepened, and thoughts of tomorrow hung thick in the air. Despite the plan with Rachel, his mind twisted down pathways of fear and reluctance. Trust was a fragile commodity, and as he grappled with the weight of secrets and alliances, a thought struck: what if Rachel was hiding something too? The vulnerability he felt was an unwelcome companion. As night fell, Jack pondered the small, intimate moments in Rachel's life, piecing together their interactions in the context of his investigation. He remembered her laughter, the furious spark in her eyes when she encountered a challenge, the compassion that spurred her into action. Yet, those same traits pulled at the edges of his suspicion. Was it possible that beneath her earnest facade lay hidden motivations tied to his sister's enigmatic past? Just before sleep claimed him, Jack's gaze swept over the row of books lining his shelves. There, buried in the context of stories and knowledge, lay the potential for growth and revelation. He realized he needed clarity. Things were spiraling faster than he could control. With this in mind, he committed to tomorrow's meeting, but not without a plan. If trust was to be extended, he would need to be the architect of his own agency, probing the limits of their partnership while keeping a vigilant eye on secrets that lurked in the shadows. As the moon cast an uncertain glow through the window, Jack nestled into thoughts of confrontation. That uncomfortable feeling ignited once more, whispering that revelation was close at hand. Something was waiting to surface. The dawning day would not only bring revelations but potentially direct confrontation. The time had come to face what he hadn't yet acknowledged. What if tomorrow, amidst the promise of progress, he uncovered an unexpected betrayal? As his mind drifted into the depths of restless sleep, one question lingered in the corners of his mind. Would facing the truth finally set him free or bind him tighter to the uncertainty he feared? The sun broke through the horizon, illuminating Jack's apartment with a soft glow that felt almost divine. He awoke with a sense of purpose that had eluded him for far too long. Today would be different. Today, he would not only honor his sister's legacy, he would transform it into an actionable vision that would redefine not just his life, but the lives of others who had come to know Lily through her work. After a quick shower and a splash of coffee to fuel his thoughts, he meticulously prepared for his meeting with Rachel and Alex. His notes were organized, the insights he had gathered from Lily's old journal fresh in his mind. Gone were the days of being haunted by guilt. Instead, he was now armed with determination and clarity. At the purest cafe, the aroma of fresh pastries mingled with the scent of strong coffee, inviting and energetic. Jack arrived early, sitting at the same booth where he had felt so vulnerable just days before. Now, he envisioned legacy-building initiatives, outreach programs, and community events that would transform the world Lily cherished. As Rachel arrived, her presence filled him with optimism. "I've been thinking about everything we discussed," Jack said, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. "We can create a series of children's health workshops, raising awareness while generating funds for research. What do you think?" Her eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. We could partner with local businesses for sponsorships and even leverage social media for outreach. Lily would love this." But soon after, Alex joined them, bringing a sense of calculated urgency. "It's time we delved into the dangerous waters ahead. I've gathered information that will be vital for our mission, but we need to tread carefully. Whoever threatened you may be watching." Jack felt a rush of adrenaline. The stakes were high, but so was the potential for impact. "I've got your back, Alex," he affirmed. "We're in this together. Let us not lose sight of what matters." The trio strategized, their excitement mounting as they plotted out the direction of their initiative, which would serve as both an homage to Lily and a platform for change. Jack felt invigorated, each goal crystallizing in his mind a stark contrast to the weight of uncertainty that had burdened him before. They would not just honor her memory, they would build upon it, transforming grief into meaningful action. As the discussion deepened, Jack's resolve solidified. They were building a legacy that would change lives, and he had begun to realize just how capable he was of leading that charge. No longer did he feel like a ghost within his empire, now, he was becoming a grounded force, competent and driven by a purpose larger than his previous ambitions. Next step, Rachel said, glancing at her watch, we need to secure fundraising commitments and finalize our outreach strategy. Absolutely, Jack replied, invigorated. We'll brainstorm tomorrow's outreach plan. I'll reach out to some of Lily's contacts and gather intel on her last projects. With their tasks delineated, they felt invigorated, a palpable energy coursing through the air. As they finalized details, Jack's phone vibrated, a notification from Ethan, who had been supportive but concerned about their direction. Just checking in. Heard from the board. They're uneasy, they want to know your plans regarding the charity work, the message read. The pressure returned briefly, but Jack squashed it down. He was not the man torn by guilt today, he was the man prepared to push boundaries. Ethan will see the light, he said with newfound confidence. And when the time comes, he'll understand. As midday turned to late afternoon, the three shared laughter and ideas, slowly teasing out the framework of a partnership that was no longer shrouded in darkness but illuminated by purpose. They were fighting for a cause that transcended personal healing, a burgeoning movement fueled by Lily's bravery. The meeting concluded with a sense of accomplishment. Jack emerged from the cafe with a cocktail of anticipation and satisfaction swirled with a hint of dread over the potential threats. But this time, he wouldn't cower, he felt invigorated by a vision of success, his sister's spirit inspiring every step he took. Later, that night, Jack received another message. This one was far more alarming. It's time to decide. We know what you're planning. This isn't game. Rather than succumbing to despair, Jack's heart raced with determination. He would navigate the dangers. His sister's legacy was worth the fight. This was the moment he had long craved. Each decision propelled him forward, every step embracing the potential for change. Jack transformed not just the narrative of his life but opened the pathway to realize the dreams of so many children Lily had cared about. No more would he play the corporate titan burdened by loss, he would emerge as a champion of change, blending ambition with compassion. With every child's laugh, every cared-for soul, a piece of his sister would live on. As Jack looked toward the horizon, he acknowledged the battles ahead yet felt ready to face them. He would confront every shadow, every threat, and break free from the chains of guilt. The promise of a new legacy awaited, and he would fight fiercely to realize it. Now is the time for all of you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of heartfelt journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these powerful stories reach more people. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Jack's journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support this channel. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of uplifting these narratives.